Well, coconutters, some of us may think we come from an island, but I'm standing on a man-made floating island.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The Euros people who live here date back to about 5,000 BC, which makes them the oldest people in South America. Now, these islands are made out of tocha reeds, which can be found in Rapa Nui and other places in the Pacific, which is why some scholars and some adventurers believe Polynesians don't just come from Peru, but they come from right here in Lake Titicaca and link directly back to these people, the Euros people. Being on a floating island is pretty crazy. Yeah, and they've been doing this for centuries. One of the other interesting things about being on Lake Titicaca, which is one of the highest lakes in the world, is seeing how they cook their food traditionally, which is very similar to a umu or hangi and other ways we cook food in the Pacific. Okay peeps, this is the last stop on my tour of Peru. We're in the Plaza de Armas in Lima. And just like islanders, these guys are big on their brass bands. This is the changing of the guard that happens every day at noon outside the presidential palace. It's quite a sight for locals and tourists alike. Nice moves, auntie. Lima, once the hub of South America, is still one of its largest cities with a population of close to 9 million people. The Spanish influence can be seen everywhere in the architecture around, and it has a cool mix of street vendors and comforts from home.
If you guys ever come to Peru, one of the things that I suggest you do is check out the churches. They're amazing. At the moment we're inside the Cathedral in Lima, in the center of Lima, and it is incredible. I'll show you around.
Even if you're not majorly into art like myself, you can't help but be in awe of the work. Interestingly, in this cathedral lies the body of Francisco Pizarro, the Spanish guy who basically wasted the Incas and conquered Peru for the Spanish. Now, in this mostly Catholic country, gold can be found all over its churches. Generally, it's not real, it's painted on wood carvings, as silver was the most prized of metals by the Incas.
Well, behind me is a look at the Pacific Ocean from the coastline of Lima, and while it's not as beautiful as we're used to seeing, it is significant for a couple of reasons. One, it's the same coast where Thor Heyerdahl, the Norwegian explorer, set off on his raft, the Kon-Tiki, to prove the point that Pacific Islanders, or Polynesians, could have come right here from Peru. And the second point, it's the same coastline that hundreds of our Pacific Island and Polynesian forefathers came as slaves when Peruvian and Spanish ships went over through to the Pacific, basically hustling our people onto their boats and bringing them here to work in hotels and work in houses and work in some of the other mines and industries that was happening at the time. Sadly, most of those people never made their way home. Just one more thing about this guy, Thor. I mean, while the rest of the scientific community hasn't picked up on his theories, you've got to admire his bravery. I mean, the guy couldn't even swim. He built a raft, sailed from these shores. 101 days later, he ends up in eastern Polynesia, just to prove a point. Slightly mad, but you've got to give it to him. And he proved that it is possible.
Aside from its rich history, Lima is world famous for its cuisine. Now, my experience is it's been all pretty mucho amazing. This is my last meal, so it's time for a vino.
And no trip to Peru is quite the same without eating dead pig. Now I'm talking about pig, I'm talking about guinea pig. People always ask what guinea pigs taste like. It tastes like guinea pig. It's not chicken. It's not like pork.
the skinny pig. Get something else. I tried it. For you. It's alright. It's not worth what you paid for.
So if you're looking for a trip filled with adventure, history and action, put Peru on your list. Its links to Polynesia make it even more interesting, even if the science is more fiction than fact. Now, if you dispute any of the information in this clip, I'm on holiday, so don't blame me, blame my guidebook or Wikipedia.